baby. I'm on my way. I'm off to find me a bride.
Hey, how you doing? I'm Dan McGee, and we're here with Vanessa Widen. And it was funniest thing. A couple of weeks ago, I was at work, and some of you know I work at CTA. I'm a mechanic slash inspector. So I was on break, and all of a sudden, I'm looking at my phone, and then I was on Facebook, and then something showed up that this person was live, and I'm thinking, oh, this looks interesting. So I started watching it, and there was a little button that said go live or something along those lines. And I just really was just going to, I thought it was like a like button. So I was going to like it so she knew that I was watching her for a little while. So I hit it, and it turned out it went like her knowing or me going on with her. So I was like her guest for a short time on there. And it was, I don't know, it was pretty funny. So anyways, I kept watching it, and I was pretty fascinated by what she was doing. So I figured I would get her on and let her tell us about what she does. So take it away, Vanessa.
Yes, very, very funny story. So you jumped on to my weekly live meeting that I do called Take a Breath. And I was in the same position that you were. When you popped up, it said, will you accept Dan to be live with you? And I was like, okay, let's just push the button and see what happens. And then we were face to face and talking, and you said, I just wanted to see what you do. And so I think I went into a little dissertation about, what I'm doing. And, in that particular case with this Take a Breath, I just got inspired to give back. Seemed like Thursdays were a good day to get on and have people kind of take a break before we move into Friday and the weekend after, you get past hump day, to remind you to breathe. So what I do, I'm a fitness life coach and yoga instructor. And I've been doing all of that for a pretty long time. Started caring for myself and working on my body back in the 7th grade. And if you're from our area, you remember probably Wilkins Junior High.
I went there, yeah.
Where I went. And so that would have been back in 1975, maybe. But yeah, so I started doing stuff like that because I didn't like my legs. Like at that age, started worrying about what I look like and what my body looks like. I don't know. I didn't really discuss it with any other girlfriends. So I don't know if anyone else my age was having that kind of self-consciousness. And really, it's kind of good and it's kind of bad at the same time. So that's kind of like what led me into exercise and group fitness, which I started teaching when I was 18. A little place in Bridgeview, back over there, if you remember where Duke's used to be.
Oh, yeah.
This was kind of like across the street in one of these little strip malls. Way, 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 way back in the day, there used to be an old house around in that area where they think they actually picked it up and moved it. So I don't know if you remember that or not, but this was
I
the
actually
area.
do remember them moving a house off of Harlem, and then
Yeah.
they put it on Okido, I think it is.
Yeah.
Like
So,
not too far from the church.
yeah. So this place was called For Women Only.
Okay.
This little studio place. So that was the first place that I actually started teaching before my next like real fitness job, which was with Richard Simmons Anatomy Asylum
Oh, wow.
up the road on Cicero Avenue. So yeah, I taught for Richard Simmons for quite a few years, was going to school at UIC, and then I started working at the East Bank Club downtown.
Oh, so you've been doing this a long time.
Yeah, since I was 18.
Yeah. Wow.
I used this Kathy Smith album. Kathy Smith was a big fitness guru person. She still does stuff out there now, but she had an album, and I used the moves and things off that album for my first audition. Maybe not anymore, but you're kind of dating yourself when you start talking about vinyl.
Oh, right. Well, you said it when you said an album or a record. Yeah. Yeah. You didn't
Yeah.
say I put in a CD or a DVD or even a cassette.
Well, when I was teaching for Richard Simmons, we could not use pre-recorded. He wanted everything to be fresh every time. So you had to use vinyl. I had a satchel that probably weighed 50 pounds full of just like this thick of vinyls that I would use because we
I
had
know
a turntable.
they're heavy. If you look in, I don't know if you can see it, but in the background over here, that's like a stack of albums about that big. And when you go to lift that thing up, it's pretty heavy. So I can imagine what you're carrying around is very heavy.
Yeah. So that's, that's taking it back. But yeah, so well, the question was, I kind of diverted into another direction back to when I was born. But so yoga came to me in 1997, actually. So after like all of that time, it was probably popular before then, but I was too busy, doing high kicks and bodybuilding and weightlifting and all of that stuff. And then all of a sudden I had 3 kids, and I needed to calm down. I needed to be level-headed and learn how to breathe. Plus I had some health issues. So that's what got me started with yoga. And kind of the rest is history.
So now yoga is not, when I grew up, pretty much yoga to me was, you sit cross-legged and then sometimes you put your leg over your head and you do these hums and stuff. I mean, that's what I knew yoga of, you know what I mean? I never
Right.
really studied it, and I never knew anybody that ever did it. I just seen bits and pieces on TV, and it's always portrayed in the same way. You know what I mean? It was always portrayed as kind of a, and very avant-garde kind of thing that only special people do it, normal people don't do it. So
Well, I love that
obviously,
you just said that,
go ahead.
because that's part of what my mission is, that it's, for everybody, not just for special people or different people, but, I mean, it has a language and a life that's kind of all of its own. And when you're digging deeper into everything that it's all about, it's more than just your physical body, but how you relate and love yourself, but also how you relate and you love your neighbor. ultimately bringing you into a place of peace. And so the thing that because I'm trained more in a physical type of yoga, Ashtanga is what it's called, and that actually means 8 limbs when you
Oh,
break it down. And so within the yoga history, this 8-limb path is, how you treat yourself, how you treat others, and like these ethics around that, kind of like the golden rule and the 10 commandments. And then comes breath, and then comes moving your body, or in yoga, we call them the asanas. So that doesn't even happen until the 3rd and the 4th limb. And then the rest of them are about bringing in focus and concentrating, removal of the senses or everything that's going on around you. And then, being able to ultimately meditate and come into the last one, enlightenment or complete peace. And so, that's the 8-limb path. And then there's so
now
much more.
when you're talking limbs, like it's sort of like limbs on a tree, not limbs of an arm or a leg.
No,
This is
yeah,
more of a tree kind of limb.
like a tree, right?
Okay.
Yeah, and you'll see it portrayed like that quite a bit, but that's just how they speak to it, because again, Ashtanga means 8 limbs, or like an 8 pathway,
Right.
to
Sure.
get to this place of peace. Now our bodies hold on to so much stuff. That's why the breath and the poses are so important to, the thing as a whole. But, when we were having our conversation before, I was telling you that, it really just began long, long time ago, 500 years past, where all they did was sit like this, or they laid down. And they tried to bring the commoners in, the blue collar workers, like the regular people need this.
Right. Sure.
Because they're so stressed out and they're having health problems, this and that. Let's teach them to meditate. But then the commoners were like, I can't sit like that. My legs don't bend like that. That hurts my back. I can't be still. And so they started adding different poses to help them to loosen up and release tight muscles in the body, and to use the breath while doing that at the same time. Because, like even in childbirth, they teach you to breathe, to release and relax,
Right.
so that the muscles open up. Some women can do it. Maybe the fathers needed to, so that's just another example of how do I cope in a situation where there's stress. And anytime you restrict or contract, that is going to make pain more on the surface and intensified. And I was just having this conversation in class today, because most people think that the bones may be the problem. So you go to, like if it's your knees, you go to the doctor, well, we need to shave, or we need to put a new one in there. And it's really not about the bones. It's about the muscles that are pulling on the bones. And so when you can get the muscles to relax, then they stop pulling on the bones in a way that's like, like contorting to your body that doesn't feel good. And all of that is around creating balance between the right side of the body, the left side of the body, the top of the body, the bottom of the body. And more than not, let's say this is a great example, like bunions.
Mm-hmm.
bunions are the result of tight hips. So when your hips are tight and lower back is tight and it's pulling your feet out.
Mm-hmm.
Now, usually that type of body also has no buttocks because everything is pulled inward and the front of the hips are open and stretched. But then if you go down and then the feet are turned out, it's like your feet are like, I have to create balance, but I have no big toe. My big toe is not supporting me going this way.
Right. Uh-huh.
So it's like your bones go, okay, well, we need some more weight. So let's create some more calcium here and start to build a toe so that we have some balance as we're walking. But if you have a bunion, you might go to your foot doctor and they'll say, well, we're going to cut that off. But then they didn't do anything to fix what the source of the problem was, which are these hips. So if you can get the sacrum to relax and the hips to relax so that the lower back kind of opens up and the hips begin to turn forward, then it will correct that bunion and you don't have to
Oh, wow.
shave your bone off. So there's a series of different type of relaxation poses that you can do to help release that and relax that so that you're correcting that movement pattern. So again, it's not the bones that are the problem. It's the muscles that are tight, that are supporting the body, that are the problem. And then, bad movement patterns that we are developing over time, or, some cases just right out of the womb, depending on how you were positioned in your mother's body,
Right. Uh-huh.
as the bones and everything were starting to develop and grow. So it's very interesting.
It is very interesting. It's amazing at um how something in your hips affects your all the way down to your feet.
Sure.
And just the
Well,
positioning of that.
my first daughter, I want to say I gained probably like 40 or 50 pounds. My feet grew a whole size.
Oh, wow.
That's another way that your body's smart. It's like, I've got to compensate for this extra weight. Now I'm only like 5'1". So there's nowhere for that to go but out.
Right, sure.
So in order to balance, my feet had to grow. Isn't that interesting?
Now, yoga, when you talk about yoga, it's a lot of it is like a state of mind too, right?
Right.
Like if you're going through things, a good yoga, I'll just call it a yoga, I don't know what you would call it, treatment, could help you deal with things, right? Like high stress type things. And
Right. When that's one of the questions that I ask when I have new students. What brought you in today? Why are you here? And most times the people that are attracted to me that come to my class will say, I just want to feel better. I want to learn to relax. Yes, maybe I would like to strengthen my core, or I want to be able to keep my flexibility, or I have lower back pain or shoulder pain, or I'm just not feeling well. And, this is one thing that I say all the time that I got from Dr. Joe Dispenza. If the mind can make you sick, the mind can make you well. And our thoughts, our thoughts create an energy and an emotion, which creates a chemical, which then affects your body. So this whole realm is, they call it the mind-body connection. And yoga itself is a connection between the mind, the body, the breath. And meditation, for example, is just to become familiar with. So when we come to class, I like to say that this is about having a relationship with yourself. To come and be in a place where you can sit and listen to your thoughts so that you have awareness about actually what you're thinking about. If you just sat for a minute and tried to remember everything that you thought about today, from the moment that you woke up, how much of that are you really aware of that you're thinking? And if you are aware, how much of it is good and how much of it is cruel, judgmental, critical of yourself or to others? How much of it's, compassionate, kindness? So when most of our thoughts are around this judgmental, critical part of ourself, as I started to talk about when I was growing up and not liking myself, how much of that is determining how we feel about ourselves and how we feel about others and what's driving us. A little competition is good and healthy, but when it's, always so critical and there's no like self-love or self-respect for ourselves in a deeper level, then where are you? And if you can't love yourself, then how can you love and respect others and have a good, true relationship? So I always say this too, that the relationship and the love starts with you.
Right.
And with loving yourself. And I don't know, I remember my mom used to say, you're a beautiful girl. You're such a nice, beautiful girl. Why are you so hard on yourself? I don't really know why. Maybe that's just something that's in us sometimes, or
right.
the society that we live in that says that, girls need to look like this and maybe boys need to look like this. And and our role models, back in the day were Farrah Fawcett and Susan Anton and, like all of these beautiful, thin people. And, as a little person, you want to be admired like that. Well, so I probably need to be like that too.
Right.
But it's not fully, you're not fully accepting yourself from where you are if you can't find something about yourself that you like.
Right.
So that's part of the journey that happens on the mat as well, is like really loving and appreciating yourself right now as you are.
Right.
Come as you are, not as you think that you should be, or not, where you were before or what maybe you desire in the future, but right here and now where you are. And there's where all the mind work comes in.
Right. Now, I've also realized, through life that to me, the biggest, thing that makes me feel good on a daily basis is being self-fulfilled. And what I mean by that is I always have to um, create or do something that I make a goal and I've got to do something, I got to fulfill that goal. And when I do that, sometimes it's, it's a big goal that takes, a year, but it's little steps that go along to that year. So as long as I'm chipping away at that goal, I'm feeling good about myself. And I've just found that a lot of people that don't really have a hobby, or they don't have an outlook beyond their job, they're very unhappy people. And what makes me happy is I go to my work, I do that for money. But when I come home, that's when my life begins at home,
Mm, right.
because that's when I start doing my things. And that to me is the best drug that your body could ever create, is being self-fulfilled and looking at what you just created and say, I did that.
Right.
So I don't know what that has to do with yoga, but
Well, like in my case, have you heard this before too? Like, do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life.
absolutely. And I believe that. Absolutely.
So, I try to coach my own children on that as well. It takes a while to figure out what you're passionate about,
Yep.
and,
Absolutely.
where your drive is. And
it changes too.
Yes.
It changed.
And
I'm
that's
like,
perfect.
I'm like 30 years old now, so it's changed like 10 times.
Well, that's perfect. As long as you're, like, we're always growing. You're either green or growing, or ripe and rotten. So to stay in that green path, you're a learner of life. I've always told my kids, life is school.
Right.
You never get out of school. So don't just think because you're out of high school or you're finished with college that it's over, because you should always be hungering for more information. That's a part of the journey in the growing. And part of the thing that I love about the yoga is that you're growing within yourself in all of it. Yoga is a journey of the self, through the self, to the self. You're always finding out about you. And it doesn't make it selfish, or it doesn't make you a narcissist, because you've got this soul or this spirit inside you, and this is our vehicle that it rides in.
Right. Absolutely.
So understanding all of that, and I can't preach that enough, just having this respect enough for your body that you care for it in a way that it's not going to last forever, but at least while it's here, I think that we're expected to care for it and honor it.
Right, exactly. Now I'm a big believer in that too, is, you're only given one body. So, you could abuse it and it'll go bad on you, a lot sooner, or you can, do the best you can with it. And that's
Right.
kind of what I done. You know what I mean? I stopped drinking when I was 22 years old, stopped getting drunk. I'll drink a little bit here and there, but I actually stopped drinking heavily when I was in my early 20s. And again, my big thing is I get my highs on creating things. So I don't miss it one bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that, I think that I found my passion a while back in teaching, because that's, helping people to achieve a goal and caring for their bodies as well. And this has just been like the next stage in that. But what I realized from being a very physical yoga teacher and starting my journey in more of a physical practice was that I really didn't need for myself that competitiveness of the pose, because you'll see a lot of that even in social media. Like, people may be drawn to the challenges that may be in a very physical type of yoga practice as, exercise or getting in shape. And I really found myself in that situation, not being comfortable with that competitiveness, like looking around perhaps and seeing what other people might be able to do on their mat and feeling a little inadequate about it. And, just saying, well, I've been practicing since 1997. I should be farther along
Right.
than I am. And then realizing that there's more to it than just what you can do with your physical body, or, feeling this pressure to twist yourself up like a pretzel and get into these deeper poses that may not be really what my body needs. And the more and more that I come to people as a teacher, not everybody wants that. And so I even, threw that question out there to myself. How many people are currently practicing yoga? And the answer was only 10 to 15% of the population. So if 10 to 15% of the population is doing yoga, what kind are they doing?
Mhm.
And what's everybody else doing? And why aren't they doing it too? And a lot of times, these are the people that are walking by the yoga studio, looking in there and going, no way. Like, I can't see myself doing that. I wouldn't be able to do it well, or I just want to do it well. Like, just having so much pressure around competing in that kind of way. And so I want to just stand at the door and say, come in, lay down. The only thing you have to do is breathe. Everything else is optional. The only thing that we have to do in this life is breathe. Everything else is a choice.
Right.
Everything else is a choice. So then when you come to your mat, let's just feel. And let's just see what we brought in with us today. What are you thinking about? What does your body feel like? What can you acknowledge? And then let's go from there and add in the breath and just focus on the breath. And then maybe move the body here and there just to take care of the spine. Let's just take care of our central nervous system and let everything else be open, because our central nervous system is the connection from our brain to our internal organs and everything else. So if that isn't in alignment, if that's askew and then we have pain or not completely making a connection to our heart, let's say, or other internal organs, then we're kind of missing the boat in being healthy and being connected. And sometimes when I'm teaching, we don't even leave the floor. Sometimes we don't even stand up, depending on what kind of energy I'm dealing with that particular day, whether it's someone on Zoom or whether it's someone live. It's about having an experience with yourself. And, maybe you can't get on your knees. Well, we don't have to get on our knees. There's other ways that we can move the body and get the connections open and feel and breathe. And at the end of it all, I just come because I want to feel good.
Right.
I want to let go and release all the things that aren't serving me, that aren't doing me any good, that I keep holding on to. That's perhaps, I use this analogy to, we're like squirrels just hiding nuts over here and there. I had a fight with my spouse and I just kept that over here in this shoulder. And that was 10 years ago. And I'm still
Right.
holding on to it. Or whatever pain, whether it's emotional or physical, because we never dealt with it,
Right.
So it's coming to your mat is an opportunity for you to even deal with the things that you've been putting off. And some people might not like that either, but the only way out is through. Sometimes you got to go through it in order to let it go
Right.
and to move on.
Yeah, it almost sounds like it's a combination of a massage and a psychiatrist. You know what I mean?
Well,
It's a kind of sounds like it's kind of both.
yeah, I do that too. Not physically massaging my customers, but encouraging them to move in a way so that they feel their body massaging itself on the floor, whether we're taking our hips from side to side or whether we're bridging up and bringing the weight into the back of the shoulders so that you can feel your spine just massaging on the floor. And all of that is loosening things up. So I'm a big proponent of self-massage.
Yeah. I mean, I just know for, just sometimes I'll get like kind of a slight headache. I really don't get headaches, but I'll get like a discomfort. We'll call it a small headache. And just from turning my neck, in a certain way and a few times, it releases that tension and that it goes away. It's amazing.
Yep. Yeah, just loosening it up. And all of these things really they need to be daily. And so in that way, if you're keeping yourself loose and supple daily, then you're not going to have that. Now, in creating balance in your body, most people are sitting a big portion of their day, let's say, especially, a lot of people that work in an office.
Right, absolutely.
Or they're at home. So their legs are bent this way, their hands are on their computer, or we're holding our phone. So if I turn sideways, even look at my neck, look
Right,
at my
absolutely.
shoulders. We come home, we're watching TV. This is where we house our important vital organs, our lungs and our hearts. And this is all rounded forward. So how do we take a full breath? And we need oxygen.
Right, absolutely.
So I spend a lot of time getting us back open. Let's create balance in the body by opening the front of the body that has been like this all day. Or, why do you get a headache? Because this weighs anywhere from 7, 8, 9 pounds. And your spine is, trying to keep it up.
Right.
Because it's not over your shoulders, it's this way. So all of that is pulling on the neck, all the way down the spine muscles, creating tension.
Right.
So, that's just another component of it.
Now you before COVID, were you doing your sessions like through Zoom still, or were you going to people's houses, or did you have a storefront, or pre-COVID, how were you set up? I'm just curious.
I had a couple live places, health clubs that I was going to teach. And then all of a sudden, what was it, like March 16th? I was like, now what are you going to do? Everything's closed down. So I moved here where I am now in 2016. Yeah, I think so. 2016. Before that, I was teaching a lot of classes for Lifetime Fitness in Orland Park. That's where I was teaching at the
Okay.
time before I moved. And then I came down here, and right away it was like, I have to keep my voice. I have to keep my teaching voice
Sure.
and keep myself, working with bodies. So I found a couple places nearby where I could teach. And then all of a sudden COVID happened, and we're like, well, we're not doing that. And I'm like, I still have my people.
Right.
So Facebook was a wonderful way to, as you know, too, like stay connected
Sure.
with more people all over the world. So it was so wonderful because some of my students from even Tennessee, let's say, well, they had friends that lived in Florida. So Florida people were, viewing as I was doing just live Facebook classes from March till probably around August. And now I was doing life coaching and health coaching before all of that. So I already had a website. And so after doing it live for a few months, I was like, this is a perfect opportunity for me to make it a part of my business and have my own class schedule on there as well to continue it and be able to try to earn a living at the same time and to make things more available. So that probably started in September of last year, officially, that I went live on with classes on my website that people could view that way.
Oh, okay. Now, what is life coaching?
Well, there's all kinds of coaches. Um, Life coaching, you might, want to come and talk to me about your career, or, health can go along with that as well, or relationships. It's kind of like coaching itself is just like this big overall umbrella
Sure.
for all of these different, avenues that might fall under it, and it's really coaching. What I learned is really not about me telling you what to do. That would be a consultant.
Right.
A coach is someone that sits with you and helps you or directs you in some ways so you can find the answers for yourself,
Okay. That makes
not
sense.
necessarily to tell you what to do, which is not always easy when you've got like all of this information. And yourself, if you're ever talking with a friend who has a problem, it's really easy for someone else to fix someone else,
Right.
but
Right.
it's not as easy for you to fix
Right.
yourself. So you've got all of this great information and you're just trying to help the person find their
Right.
way.
Well, even I'm, as you're talking, I'm thinking even a baseball coach doesn't necessarily take the bat and start swinging it and say, here, okay, this is how you do it. And, that's all you need to know. The coach actually gives the bat back and talks you through how to do it yourself.
Right.
So
Right.
that's a big part of coaching is what you just said. It's helping the person deal with whatever they're dealing with or learning how to swing a bat or catch a ball, not doing it for them.
Right. 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 Well, as a health coach, I have, people that come to me and they say, I would like to feel this way or do this or lose weight or I'm trying to heal from a particular problem. And we really just look at overall lifestyle things.
Okay.
Now, how can we get you to feel better? So they kind of have to decide on their own where are some areas where they might be willing to make a change. And I would quite often say, even in group fitness classes that I would teach, what's one thing that you could do today to move you a little closer to feeling better or to having a healthier lifestyle or goal? Just one thing that you can think of. Even if it's just, well, I know that drinking more water might be good for me.
Sure.
Beautiful. Let's start there. And then tomorrow or the next day, whenever you're ready, what one more thing can you add into your life that's going to make a difference in you feeling better or being healthy? Now, it's challenging because most people want their changes like yesterday.
Right.
But in lifestyle changes, like, we want these things to be long lasting. You want it to be a part of you. And we never usually want to feel like we're restricted or held back in any kind of way. So I never really, unless it's something that's really unhealthy for you, I never really suggest like giving something up. But how can you substitute whatever that thing is for something else?
Right.
Like I used to have the habit of coming home in the afternoon and wanting a cup of coffee and some maybe cookies or a piece of leftover cake, or I'm like, I still have that habit of, I like to come home, I like to sit and relax. But now how can I make whatever that is that I'm doing a healthier habit to have?
Mm-hmm.
So I started replacing it with trail mix or a handful or a little, cup full of dark chocolate covered almonds, like whatever is a little bit better than what I was doing before,
Right.
instead of feeling like, I'm having to give up on everything and my life isn't any fun anymore. How can you just substitute it and make it a little bit healthier for you?
Right. I know I like to have as much fruit around the house as possible, because if you have a bunch of candy, potato chips, and no fruit, I'll be just as happy with that.
Yeah.
But if I have a lot of fruit, I would rather have the fruit. And once you have the fruit, you don't really care about that other stuff anymore. Or if you do, you don't make meals of it. You just have a little bit of a snack and you're done. And that's the way I am, is, I'll have potato chips, a small candy bar, but I buy the real little ones, the
Yeah.
little snack like ones. And just one of those I'm good with. I don't have to eat one of those giant 400-pound candy bars to feel good.
Well, that's something that's really important. And also, I do this to myself at nighttime. I usually like finish the night with some hot tea. And I might be like, well, do you want something? Like I sit with myself and I kind of dissect it a little bit. Do you want something salty? Do you want something sweet? Are you okay? Maybe you don't need anything at all. So that's another part of the yoga, that it teaches us to kind of sit with it. When you get into a pose, you might have a craving or an urge to get out of it. So there's a certain discipline around it that says, just stay for a little bit longer, try to breathe here and relax here instead of being so reactive. So, that kind of carries over in living yoga off the mat, that when you get into other areas of your life, that, like in my example, I'm not so quick to say, yeah, just get up and go get some potato chips, or just get up and get some chocolate. I sit with it and then I decide, what is this craving that I'm having? Maybe I'm just thirsty and need a glass of water, like trying to figure out what the real thing is. Sometimes my body's like, yeah, it's a salty thing. So go get a handful of nuts or something like that, or some quinoa chips, or, a rice cake, like try to find something that's going to satisfy that, because if you don't get the thing that you really want, you probably are just going to keep eating until you figure out what the thing is that you really wanted in the first place.
Right.
Unless maybe what you really wanted was a hug. I mean, emotional eating is a real thing.
Oh, I bet.
So, when you're dealing with that in your yoga class, it's part of like knowing yourself and letting go of the cravings and the urges, or just disciplining yourself enough to stay in that space and breathe until you find out what the answer is.
Now, do you think that the poses, I mean, I know some of the poses are for like, I don't know, but I'd imagine they're for doing, for freeing up muscles and that kind of stuff. But do you think part of that is just putting your body into neutral, and so you're not moving and fidgeting, to where you can free up your mind, because you're not using your mind to fling your legs back and forth and move your arms, you know what I mean? Do you think that's
Yeah.
part of that?
Well, I think it's definitely about creating balance. And I like the neutral word that you used, because, when we're tight or irritated, then that's, where the attention goes, is where the energy is going to flow. So if you have pain or tension, let's say in your shoulder, and that's, what's poking at you, that's the same as a thought that's poking at you.
Mhm.
So when you can release that and let go of it, whether it's this shoulder pain or whether it's that thought, then you do come into a place of peace or neutral, or, just within this present moment that we're in, where we can be still and see how we are.
Wow. So, all right. If somebody wanted to get in touch with you and take classes or just watch some of your videos, what's the best way to do it? I'll put a link on the video too, but you can, tell us about what you do as far as your website, Facebook, and Instagram, and all the stuff you're on.
Right. Well, I have, my website is VanessaWidenCoaching.com. And I have my own Facebook page that's Vanessa Widen Coaching, and also Yoga for Everybody, which I think you have to be invited to. So if you're friends with me on Facebook or under my business page as well, then I can invite you onto the Yoga for Everybody. And then on Instagram, it's Inspiring Change, which is been one of my missions, let's say, just to inspire people to try to find the best version of themselves at any given time or day. And I guess really even to just to dissect that inner dialogue that you're having with yourself and let yourself be free of that so that the rest of you can be healthy.
Now, I like that. And tell me a little more about that. That everybody, it's not necessarily everybody, it's everybody. So what you're saying is, it could be for even if you have limitations, this still could work for you because it's for every type of body. You're
Right,
overweight,
exactly.
you're super skinny, um, you know, maybe one of your legs don't work, your arms, whatever. You know what I mean?
Right.
There's
Right. Well,
something
I
that
hear that
can,
all the time that I can't do yoga because I have 2 hip replacements. I can't do yoga because I can't get down on the floor. There's always a way. If you can find, if there's a will, there's a way. If we can find a way, whether you're laying in your bed or sitting in your chair, whatever it is that you've got, we can work with that. So the 4 things that I always try to cover in my classes that are so important to me, number 1 is awareness. We just have to be aware of where we are in our body, or whether we're even in our body or having an out of body experience. You and I are having this conversation right now, but like Charlie Brown's teacher, you could be hearing me, but not really hearing me. Maybe you just hear, pop, pop, pop,
right,
pop.
not really interpreting it. Right.
Right. You can be completely somewhere else. So awareness is so important. Number 2 is the breath. Number 3, I always try to take care of your spine in all the ways that your spine can work within a range of motion that's comfortable for you. And that's part of just knowing your own body. So never moving to the point of pain till there's no jabbing sensation. So you're avoiding all of that and just moving within your own range. As you begin to open up and become more supple, then that range of motion is going to change. And then number 4 is being very intentional about what you're doing and why. Like maybe it's just for self-love. Maybe you do have some internal organs that are struggling, whether it's your kidneys, your liver, your intestines. I try to get really in depth with how can we heal this, maybe just with our mind and our breath, by sending the energy there. Where the attention goes, the energy is going to flow there. So if we focus on healing the gut, let's say, then that's a very powerful message that we're providing for our body. So it very much can be for anybody to just show up and just see where you are, meet yourself where you are, and now let's go from there. And every day, even if you're doing the same poses every time, every day is going to be different because your body's different every single day. Let's just show up and see where we are. There's, I think, still a lot of, well, let me backtrack a little bit because, some people have a lot of anxiety. Some people are very fidgety and it might be hard for them just to sit still. So even that type of person that maybe doesn't have any mobility issues,
Right.
they have to meet
right.
themselves where they are. Maybe they have to do some jumping jacks or sun salutations or whatever it is to finally, okay, I've worn myself out. now it's time to be still and work on some other things. And that's really like the structure. And a lot of yoga classes are based on that. Let's work you until your body has no choice but to then be still and be quiet.
Oh,
Because after you've had like a long, exercise session, let's say, you're a lot more like tired and ready to
right.
just sit down and be still than otherwise if you had a lot of anxiety or anxiousness and you needed to get rid of all of that.
Right.
So that's part of meeting yourself where you are. I will say that right now, I don't have any clients that are like that. They're perfectly willing to lay on their mat and let me talk to them and talk them through parts of their body to become familiar with. So even in that, that's a form of meditation where I'm just guiding you through these parts of your body so you can see, is that shoulder tense or is it relaxed? If it's not relaxed, then relax it so that you start to become more familiar with this body that you're living in.
Right. Now, what are the I know it's not limited to or anything like that, but what are the age ranges of, most of your clients? Like from what to what?
Let's see, probably 30s to early 70s.
Okay, that's about what I would figure. So,
Yeah.
yeah, because if while you're in your 20s, you don't really want to slow down and everything's working pretty good.
Yeah. Well, I'm always just, wonderfully appreciated when I have some younger people. When we were live before the pandemic, I had some high school students that were showing up,
Oh, nice.
and one was a junior, and he played in the band.
Okay.
And when he would come in, he would say, like, my band director is so excited about what you're doing with me in class because his lung capacity had improved so much. I want to say that he played the tuba.
Oh, you need a lot of air for that.
Right. So a lot of that breath control, really helped him in playing his instrument. And I do have, well, she's probably in her either later 20s or early 30s. She just had a baby. She comes to class. She's a hairdresser and she's on her feet a lot. I just need to learn to relax and let go and relax these upper body muscles that are like this all day long. And again, trying to create balance. Now, this isn't true of everyone, but I say this of myself. My yoga practice is the last place where I want to come and have to hurry or feel like I have to keep up. And I have been in yoga classes before where I felt like that. Now, whether that was self-imposed on myself or whether it was from the teacher, just feeling like I can't keep up with the pace of what they're doing. And so we usually always give permission to just lay down if ever you feel like you need to take a break. You could take downward facing dog to take a break. You could take child's pose to take a break, or you could return back into this peaceful Shavasana pose to take a break. But not everybody always honors that when they're feeling like, when that other little internal ego voice in there is going, you got to keep up. You can't keep up. I'm not doing this well. You've got to keep up. So I think even up there when I was teaching, I was known for having a very long beginning Shavasana before there was even any movement. that was taking place, because I feel like you have to have a pause between coming in and sitting down. You know, that's the last thing that you probably need to do is just keep going.
Right.
Like, let's take a break and take a pause before you do the next thing. And I would often say, find these places in your day where you can press the reset button, where you can stop and be where you are. You know, so we wake up in the morning, sit on the edge of your bed and breathe. Maybe a nice place right there to begin a gratitude practice. What are you grateful for before you even begin your day? Because we know when we're grateful that we're happier. We're not dwelling on what our lack is.
Right.
You know, so next place, maybe you go to sit down and have breakfast. But before you start to eat, let's breathe and be thankful maybe for the food that I'm about to bring into my body. You know, but what does it usually look like? Your feet hit the floor, you're hitting the ground running, you don't stop, you eat your breakfast, you didn't breathe, you were driving to work while you were drinking your breakfast, or you didn't have any at all. You know, did you really sit and enjoy your break? You know, you get in the car and, you know, everybody's always in a hurry everywhere, you know, and we hear ourselves say things like, I can't catch my breath. I
Right.
never get a break, you know, but we have to find places to give ourselves that break and to catch our breath. So if you just, you know, even if it takes you getting up 15 minutes earlier so that you have time to sit in your car before you drive away, or once you get to work, to sit in your car before you get out, you know, just taking moments to slow your day down before you move into that next part. So even especially then after work, you get back in your car, let work go right there before you get in don't take it home with you, so to speak. Then when you get home, you know, like let all that go, then go in, kiss your wife, pet your dog, you know, like then be there in that moment without all of the other stuff. So all of these places where we can stop and pause and breathe, reflect, let go. And I feel that way about the yoga practice too. Let's not be in such a hurry just to go and get into that pose as fast as we can so we can get in and get out and go on to the next thing.
So are most of the things you're doing now one-on-one, or are you doing over the your website, internet, or Zoom, or however you're doing it? Are you doing any group sessions, like, you know, 2 or more, or is most
Yeah.
of the stuff now just one-on-one?
Mostly one-on-one, but some small group, like not more than 4 people.
And
The
are you
class,
doing those Zoom on a Zoom, or are you doing that?
yes,
Okay.
yes. Yeah, my live classes, this morning I had 6 people in class. So
Oh,
those
nice.
classes are usually a little bit bigger. But I like the one-on-one. It's a different environment than when I was teaching up in Chicago, which would be up to 30, 35 people sometimes, which you still have an energetic way of connecting with all of those people.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that when you start working with a person one-on-one, it makes you a better teacher.
I bet. All right, one more time, and then we'll go. tell us how we can get a hold of you if we wanted to get more information from you.
Well, Facebook, Vanessa Widen, or VanessaWidenCoaching.com is my website. I've got lots of classes on there that you could just try for free if you want to, or you can, direct message me. And if you, like to try a Zoom class, you could, do it that way as well. And, just let's be friends first. And you can, just see if you like what I post. I'm not on social media a whole lot, but whatever I do put out there, I like for it to be inspirational and maybe make you smile.
Well, it looked good to me, or else I wouldn't have ever pressed on that button. All right. Well, I'll talk to you later. It's been great talking to you. And hopefully we'll get some people that get in touch with you.
Awesome.
Because it's definitely a neat thing that you do, and it seems like it would help a lot of people out, especially in where we are today with COVID and people losing jobs, and I mean people need a release.
Yes.
So and people need to just start getting along.
Can't we just get along?
That's right.
You know what? Just powerful words. Just breathe.
That's right. All right. Talk to you later.
All right. Thanks, Dan.
Bye.